little something like
Hello, Literates. I'm brittwriterly, and welcome back to Writer's Ambition. For those who've been hanging in since episode 1, use a real one. For those of you just finding my humble channel, welcome. We hope you stay a while. Okay, let me adjust this camera a little bit. Sorry, super friends. Okay, so today I'm actually going to do something bookish, which I haven't done in a long time, I know. But I was reading in the month of October this series called the Ellery Hathaway Mystery Series. It's by Joanna Schaffhausen. Yeah. And so I'm just going to do a series review. No rankings, just reactions, because I don't want to rank. I don't want to. I just want to give my hot takes. So the first one is called The Vanishing Season. I love that title. I'm just going to read all the blurb and then I'm going to talk about it, and there's 5. So I'll try to be relatively brief and keep this video to like 30-ish minutes. I feel like will be appropriate. It's a 5-book series. I think we can work that out. Okay, so book number 1, The Vanishing Season. Ellery Hathaway knows a thing or two about serial killers, but not through her police training. She's an officer in sleepy Woodbury, Massachusetts, where a bicycle theft still makes the newspapers. No one there knows she was once victim number 17 in the grisly story of serial killer Francis Michael Coben, the only one who lived. She's the only girl who lived. When 3 people disappear from her town in 3 years, all around her birthday, Ellery fears someone knows her secret, someone very dangerous. Her superiors dismiss her concerns, but Ellery knows the vanishing season is coming and anyone could be next. She contacts the one man she knows will believe her, the FBI agent who saved her from a killer all those years ago. Agent Reed Markham made his name and fame on the back of the Coben case, but his fortunes have since turned. His marriage is in shambles, his bosses think he's washed up, and worst of all, he blew a major investigation. When Ellery calls him, he can't help but wonder. Sure, he rescued her, but was she ever truly saved? His greatest triumph is Ellery's waking nightmare, and now both of them are about to be sucked into the past, back to the case that made them, with a killer who can't let go. Sorry, when I was reading this, I was like, I was thinking about them. So let's hop right into that. Let me just start by saying this. It's a little weird. It's a little weird. Their relationship, because their relationship is the B plot of the entire series. I'm gonna be drinking some kung fu tea. It is honey oolong milk tea from Kung Fu Tea with my Holy Spirit Activate cup holder, brought to you by Danique Threads. Is this a sponsored video? No, but should you shop at Danique Threads? Yes, I will link them in the bio. Anyway, reading Ellery's relationship is a little weird. So what I don't like, let me just say this fundamentally. The reason she has to call him is because her supervisors don't believe that what she says is going on is going on. I don't like that in cozy mysteries and mystery mysteries, there is either a vindictive, just mean-spirited police presence, or there is an incompetent and annoying and abuse of power police presence. Can we have good police? Like, I know what's going on in the world, obviously. Why are y'all? Because it feels like a parody. It feels like a parody when those are the choices and they're both bad. I'm like, now the federal law enforcement agencies be Gucci. Reed Markham, for instance. But the lower level, like the more local police force, they be corrupt every time. It's ridiculous. So I don't like that. Them not believing her is the reason that my eyes are all over the place. I'm looking at a lot of things, y'all. Don't mind me. Listen. So I don't like that the reason that Ellery had to call Reed was because her bosses didn't believe her, because they were like, the cases aren't connected, which I understand, because she's claiming that one person killed 3 people over the course of 3 years, but he crossed the killer, crossed race lines, crossed gender lines, crossed age lines. That is not typical of a serial killer. And so they didn't believe her. That makes sense. She's also sleeping with her boss. Now let me say this. Francis Michael Coben, the serial killer, sexually abused these girls. He took her when she was 14. Content warning for sexual assault. Just giving you time to like mute me or walk away. Schaffhausen is very explicit. Not that she represents what happens, but she tells you what he did. Over the course of the books, you get more and more details. Not in a flashback, just in people referencing what Coben did, because Reed talked about it in his book. Reed is the FBI agent who saved her. The fame that he got was from saving her, from doing lots of interviews, from writing a book on it. Writing the book on him, telling him his wife, Sarit. I don't like Sarit. We'll get to her later. Anyway, the point is, the details of what Coben did to these girls comes out throughout the course of the series. Here's where the content warning comes in. He raped them with farm tools. His family owned a farm. That's where he kept them. Reed found her in a closet that was nailed shut. He had to pry it open, get her, and then ran through the woods. That's how he saved her. By the time Reed saved her, everyone looking for her thought that she was already dead, because he usually only kept girls for 24 hours. This was her third day. So that's what happened. Here's why I bring that up when I say Ellery was sleeping with her boss. For a long time, Ellery didn't sleep with anybody. She never actually sleeps in a bed with anybody to begin with. So it's highly euphemistic to even, again, featuring my pipes. Hello. She never sleeps in a bed with anybody. It's purely euphemism when she ever says sleeping with somebody. She has sex. It took her years to even be able to have sex. And even when she started having sex, it was purely for power, not for pleasure. In fact, she had not been able to have an orgasm at all. And the doctors told her that she may not ever, because of the abuse that he inflicted upon her. For sure, she can't have kids. He hurt her so bad, I think she needed reconstructive surgery. They were like, you're never going to have kids. So Coben really did a number on her. No matter that it was 17 years ago, she went to therapy because it was required by a judge, but it didn't necessarily work. She was extremely apathetic about it. Like she wasn't open to the process at the time. So she's sleeping with her boss, who is telling her that she's making things up, seeing connections where there aren't any. She's sleeping with him to get him to listen to her. That's what she does. And not what she does as in like she's a man eater, but she only sleeps with men for power and influence over them. She doesn't do it for pleasure. She doesn't get any pleasure out of it. And so she goes to Reed, like the summary said, he's in a hard way. He's essentially like a behavioral, it's very BAU Criminal Minds, except for he's just one person, but that's what he does. He's a profiler. And so he has just messed up on a case and the result of his faulty profile was a 3-year-old dying. And so he's been put on like mental health leave and all the things. That's where he is when she calls him. And so he decides to go help. He never thought that Ellery was gonna call him. He gave her his card when she was still in the hospital at 14 and said, if you ever need me, call. But he didn't think she was ever going to do that. So he got time. He goes down there. They have a connection because they both, well, not both. He saw her at her lowest moment, and he's the guy that saved her forever. And so there's that connection, but it's not immediately romantic, intimate, sexual, erotic, none of that. It's just like, oh wow, you're the person that gave me back my life. And he's like, wow, you're the person that like made my career. And so that's what's going on. His wife Sari asked him to leave. I'm all over the place, but that's why I said I'm not ranking. This is not a review. It's just reactions. And when I was listening to all this, I was like, interesting. So I think it's interesting that Ellery has this view of sex. Also, spoiler alert, I'm gonna get to what, like, how it all ends. But I'm mostly concerned with Ellery's and Reed's relationship and these reactions. They work together. Ellery's a good cop. She's making connections that no one else was making. And he's like, wow, like, you're a solid cop. And she's like, thank you. As they talk, he realizes that Ellery doesn't actually appreciate the fact that he made his career off of her. She certainly doesn't appreciate that he has made money off of a book on her. There's a movie that comes out every few years about the Coben case and her being the girl that survived. She doesn't like any of that. It doesn't give her any peace. It doesn't give her any closure. She doesn't take any pride in being the one who lived. And that's why in the summary, it's like he wonders if he ever truly saved her, because she does not seem healed. She does not seem happy. She does not seem okay. She has, in her apartment, in her house, she has a little house, all the closets are nailed shut. She's not okay. And he realizes that when he goes back to help her with this case, as he's helping her with the case, he's like, you need help. Now, Ellery ain't the one to be like, yes, I do need help. Help me. She's like, freak you. But as they work the case, they start to develop some feelings for them. They are a very slow burn across the entire series, so nothing happens in this installment, but it begins their chemistry from collegial to friendship, and friendship is where they end. In fact, Reed is trying to get back with Sarit. Sarit. I'm gonna say this and then we're gonna go to the next book. He wanted to get back with Sarit and called to be like, I want to make it work. Her issue with him was, you're always flying hither and thither to save someone else's family instead of being here for your own. My thing about that is, ain't that what he was doing when you met him? She met him after he saved Ellery. He shot into fame all across the country because it was a national case. And she is the one that actually wrote Ellery's book. It was his ideas, but she was a journalist when he met him. So she wrote the book. He just sort of, they worked on it together. They collaborated on it, and it's published as his book, but she's the one that wrote it. Through that process, they got together, then they got married. They had this adorable little daughter named Tula. She's 7. So he's like, I wanna give it another try, blah, 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 blah. He called a house and a man pick up. They're separated. They're not divorced yet. Now, am I worried about the man? Not necessarily, because when Ellery called him, he was in bed with another woman. So clearly, and this is a theme that I see, people treat separation like that means that you are like free from your marriage vows. Okay, that wasn't my understanding of it, but that's what they're doing. So am I over here like, how dare you be having another man and sleeping with another man? My thing is, how you gonna have another man in y'all's house with y'all's daughter? Absolutely the freak not. From then on, I didn't like Sarit. That's so disrespectful. And you got this man answering my house phone. So Sarit goes to the phone and she was like, I'm sorry, I didn't want you to find out that way. Well, neither the heck did I, Sarit. And so she's like, he's Tula's best friend's dad. I don't care. I don't care. Why is he in my house with my daughter? Because not you sleeping with someone with my daughter in the house. No, 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 no. So from then I was like, no, I don't like Sarit. That was mad disrespectful. And she didn't apologize for doing it. She apologized for him finding out about it by this man answering the phone. And nor did Rita indict her for it, by the way. So maybe he doesn't care. I'm sure he does, because he does. Like Reed is very, is the word jealous? Not necessarily, but like he still loved Sarit at that moment. So and he loves his little girl. So I'm sure he wasn't crazy about it, but he never indicted her for it. Nor did we get a lot of internal dialogue of him being like, how dare she have a man in my house with my kid. He doesn't say that. I did, and I didn't like it. So we end with, okay, so the divorce is really going to go through with Sarit and Reed. Ellery is single as a Pringle because she breaks it off with her boss. for a second, he's suspect in my mind because this man is watching her in the woods. And he was like, and he's married, the boss. So that's what's like, it's really hard to out and out like anyone in this series because all their flaws are very present. So you were sympathetic to Ellery, you root for her, but you also are like, girl, you a little messy. So her boss is watching her in the woods, talking about, well, there's someone here, like there's someone stalking you. And she's like, yes, there is. And he's like, no, someone else. And she's like, I don't want anyone stalking me. That includes you. So for a second, he was suspect. And the thing is, like, the creepy factor is that what Coben did, the serial killer, where he would cut the hands off of girls, dispose of their bodies, keep the hands. Someone is putting hands on Ellery's front porch. That's how it came out. Like, oh no, these things are all related. Turns out that the killer was actually, maybe I won't do that much spoilers for y'all. I won't. I'll just make it about their relationships. So they solve the case. Reed goes away. We're done. Book 2. Book 2 is No Mercy. So she and Reed have not seen each other for a little minute. But they take on 2 cases in No Mercy. So police officer Ellery Hathaway is on involuntary leave for her job because, spoiler alert, she shot a murderer in cold blood. So they find in Vanishing season, they find the guy who did it. Again, emotions are rising high for her because this is someone who is copycatting the man who abducted and abused her. When they find him, he goads her and she shoots him. She shoots him when Reed has already detained him, restrained him on the ground in cuffs. So they can tell from the angle of the bullet that you shot this man while he was on the ground. That's murder. Do they fire her? No, she's not involuntarily, but that's why, because they catch the guy in book 1. She shoots him after he's already been arrested. No one saw it but her and Reed, which is why they can't really charge her, but they can. But the forensics are hinky. Her and Reed's boss sort of like, they don't put too much on it, but people can tell something stinks, so she's on involuntary leave. And she's not apologetic about it at all. Forced into group therapy for victims of violent crime, Ellery immediately finds higher priorities than getting in touch with her feelings. For one, she suspects a fellow group member may have helped to convict the wrong man for a deadly arson incident years ago. For another, Ellery finds herself in the desperate clutches of a woman who survived a brutal rape. He is still out there, this man with the Spider-Man-like ability to climb through bedroom windows, and his victim beseeches Ellery for help in capturing her attacker. Ellery seeks advice from her friend, FBI profiler, again, so they're friends right now. Ellery seeks advice from her friend, FBI profiler Reed Markham, who liberated her from a killer's closet when she was a child. Reed remains drawn to this unpredictable woman, the one he rescued but couldn't quite save. Because by the end of the book, he is repentant about the book. He's with her and agreeing about all these movies coming out. Like, by the end of book 1, he understands Ellery better. They're friends. He's apologetic about the part he played in commodifying her life and trauma. And so he wants to help her. They're friends now. The trouble is, Reed is up for a potential big promotion, and his boss has just one condition for the new job: stay away from Ellery. Ellery ignores all warnings. Instead, she starts digging around in everyone's past but her own, a move that at best could put her out of work permanently and at worst could put her in the city morgue. Ellery is very hard-headed. She won't listen to anything anyone says. She always has a reason why it's okay for her to do things her way. I find that very annoying about her. I'm not gonna lie to you about it. But that's her thing. Y'all, this milk tea is so good. Anyway, I find it very annoying. But that's her thing. So, without getting into, like I said, all the crime, because we're not here for crime, we're here for couples. She's working these cases. She asks Reed to help her. He comes down. His boss essentially says, go and sex her out of your system. You are intrigued by this woman because you knew her as a girl and she's grown up Now, given Reed was young when he met her, so it's not like he was 30 when she was 14, and now she's 28, which is how old she is, and you're 50, and you want you some young tail. That isn't it. He was young when he met her, so I think maybe he's like 7 to 10 years older than her. Is the thing. This is why I said their relationship is a little weird to me, because you met her as a kid when you were an adult, and now she's an adult and you're an adult. It's a little weird to me. Comment your thoughts on that. But book 2, they're friends. But his boss is like, I feel like there's little between y'all. Go bang it out of your system. Come back and don't talk to her again after that. I'm going to give you 24 hours. So Rita's down there for 24 hours. He's like, wait, this could really be a case. I don't think it's just your imagination. They start working it. It takes more than a day. His boss comes down there and is like, I'm here to bring you back. Reed's like, I'm not going back. So that's the tension. It's like, y'all are friends. Y'all are friends. How far you gonna take this, friend? Because you got a daughter. How far are you gonna take this? You gonna lose this job? You want this job. You want this promotion. How far are you gonna take this, friend? Because getting this job would allow you to not have to fly hither and thither. Because the other thing is, Sari is trying to have she has primary physical custody of their child. He wants more time. Like he would like more time with Tula theoretically, but he knows that he travels too much to have more time with her than he already does. And so this job would be good for him to be in one place, and then he could try to get like joint custody, more of a joint custody with her than essentially every other weekend or one weekend a month and every other holiday. It's not a lot of time. And Tula's very much a daddy's girl, and so they love each other so much, but he doesn't have as much time as he would like to have, but he doesn't have more time to give with the demands of his job, which is why Sarit has primary physical custody. And so this job is not just about money and your career, it's about you being able to be there for your daughter in the way that you want to be, and you're putting that in jeopardy to be here for this reckless woman, Ellery, and solving these 2 cases. So again, without getting into the crime, it's very interesting. But without getting into that, that's sort of where their relationship is in book 2. And I think they still end the relationship kind of as friends. If they do consummate it, it's not like they don't have sex in book 2. They just I think they may kiss or acknowledge to each other that they like each other. And then Sarit also is like, do you like her? This girl, Abby, because her name is Abigail Ellery Hathaway. She stopped going by Abby when she was in college or something to distance herself from all of the coverage around it. So Sarit thinks of her as Abby, someone that Sarit and Reed wrote about together. Reed calls her, as she likes to be called now, Ellery. And Sarit sort of is like, so she's not ours anymore. And Reed's like, nope, she is this person that I know. So that Ellery is also a point of tension between them there. And Sarit is jelly. She is. And I'm just like, you don't really have the right to be, though. You over here got a whole man in the house that you asked Reed to leave with y'all's daughter that still don't sit right with me. You don't really have the right to care about who he's dating at all. And so that's really where book 2 ends. Their relationship moves a little bit more, like I said, it's a slow burn. It just moves a little bit into them acknowledging that the way I depend on you as a friend. Ellery doesn't have a lot of friends. Particularly after what happened in book 1, she doesn't have a lot of friends. And Reed being someone who she can call and he comes when she calls is really big for her. And so their relationship is developing more and more because of the growing trust she has for him. Book 3, All the Best Lies. This book is a lot about Reed. The first 2 books have been a lot about Ellery and crimes that Ellery wants to chase. At the end of book 3, at the end of book 2, Reed realizes, because it's around Christmas time, his sister wanted to make a family tree for his dad because Reed is adopted. He already knew it. He's always known that. But she wanted Reed to contribute because she was like, you're part of my family no matter what. And he didn't really want to, because he was like, it's one thing to know, it's another thing to like actually seek out to, like, what am I going to do if I have a cousin and go find it? Like, he had a lot of feelings about it. Feelings that Ellery helped him work through because they have that emotional intimacy. In a way, because Ellery also does not do intimacy of any kind. So they are growing the emotional intimacy that grows before the physical. So like these books have them growing their emotional intimacy, and then in book 3 is when it gets a little bit more physical. But at the end of book 2, he decides, all right, I'm gonna do it. He gets the DNA test back, and it shows that he is related to his sisters. He's by half. And so he is, but obviously if he was his mother's son, you're not like, then you wouldn't say I was adopted. You wouldn't be able to hide that. So he realizes, oh, I'm my father's son, that my father had a baby on my mother and then they adopted me. The reason Reed is adopted, which he's known for a while, is because his mother was killed at the age of 19 in some crappy apartment in Las Vegas. He's known that. That's why he became an FBI agent, to solve her case. He could never solve it. It was cold for a very long time before he ever was in the FBI, obviously. And so he was never able to solve it. It remains open to this day. The police in Nevada have yet to close it. And so and we've known this since book 1. Like, he thinks about it sometimes. And so at the end of book 2, to realize, so my dad is the father that had the kid with my murdered mother. And so he starts to think, like, if he's lying about this, what does he know about her murder? That's the end of book 2. Book 3, All the Best Lies. These titles, they're giving. So, All the Best Lies, FBI agent Reed Markham is haunted by one painful unsolved mystery. Who murdered his mother? Camilla was brutally stabbed to death more than 40 years ago while baby Reed lay in his crib mere steps away. The trail went so cold, the Las Vegas Police Department has given up hope on solving the case. But then a shattering family secret changes everything Reed knows about his origins, his murdered mother, and his powerful adopted father, State Senator Angus Markham. I do not like this man. Now Reed has to wonder if his mother's killer is uncomfortably close to home. Unable to trust his family with the details of his personal investigation, Reed enlists his friend, suspended cop Ellery Hathaway, to join his quest in Vegas. Ellery has experience with both troubled families and diabolical murderers, having narrowly escaped from each of them. She's eager to skip town too because her own father, who abandoned her years ago, is suddenly desperate to get back in contact. He also has a secret that could change her life forever if Ellery would let him close enough to hear it. Far from home and relying only on each other, Reed and Ellery discover young Camilla has snared the attention of dangerous men, any of whom might have wanted to shut her up for good. They start tracing his twisted family history, knowing the path leads back to a vicious killer, one who's been hiding in plain sight for 40 years and isn't about to give up now. Okay. So, they're at this point, I need to check my memory. Yes, at this point, they're still friends. They haven't consummated anything. Although they have this sort of like, not playing house, but like when Reed comes at Ellery's beck and call, he stays at her house, and he's a really good cook. So even though they haven't had a date, they share meals together often. And so it sort of be date-esque to me, but like, Ellery lives in sweats. She's either in her police uniform or she's in sweats. She hasn't been in uniform since book 1, so she's typically just comfortable. She doesn't dress up. She doesn't put on makeup. She doesn't do her hair. Like, she's either slick backed bun in uniform or messy bun, sweats. Like, she's just, it doesn't necessarily give date because she don't be giving date, but it does give comfortable companionability. So they share a lot of like scenes together where they are just comfortable with each other, but it hasn't gotten physical yet. Now they are out here together. Again, he don't trust anyone. She doesn't really have anyone, Her older brother Daniel died when he was a junior in high school from cancer. And her father walked out on them before he even got sick. She only has her mother. Her mother still lives in the house that she lived in, when the apartment that she lived in when Ellery was abducted. Ellery refuses to go back there because you can see she was abducted at a park across the street from her house. She was out at that park at like midnight on her birthday. Why, you ask? Because her mother was at the hospital with Danny, Ellery's older brother. Her mother gave Danny all of her attention. Ellery was left on her own a lot. It makes sense because you have a sick kid. It also doesn't change the fact that Ellery needed way more attention than she got, and that's why she was outside the night that she got abducted. You could see the exact spot where she got abducted from that apartment. So Ellery refuses to go back. Her mother refuses to move because she's like, this is the last place where your brother was alive. So Ellery and her mom have a very distant relationship. They're not estranged because Ellery will call her mother every once in a while, but she has never been back to the house. So she hasn't seen her mom in a long time because her mom doesn't like to travel. So they're not estranged, but they are very distant. And so they really don't, like, Reed and Ellery really only have each other because Reed isn't talking to his family right now very much. Like, it's very like snappish, accusatory, how could you conversation. It's not the like chill family vibes that it has been for him prior to this moment. So we get them in this like pressure cooker of it's just me and you figuring this out. Ellery's like, you've been there for me whenever I called you. You calling me, I'm here for you. She's still on suspension. So what else does she have to do? So they're in Vegas. They're figuring out what's going on with this Camilla thing. And they go on a date. They try to. They start going on a date. This is the first book where they're really getting, like, they're taking the physicality really towards, like, sex, not just a lingering touch. So she goes and gets a dress for their date. He's cooking. He's a really, really good cook. He be chefing. And so he's cooking. She gets a dress. They have a nice dinner. It's really cute. They're drinking. They're playing flipping cards in a trash can or something, whatever, but like it's cute because it's very comfortable. It's very them. Then they start to get into schmexy times, and he sees, oh, that's not what happened, because he's seen her, he's encountered her scars before, all the scars that go and put all over her body, arms, torso, everything. She is a scarred woman in a lot of ways. He knows that. The scars don't stop him. He doesn't even really see the scars anymore. Ellery loves that. That he doesn't like flinch when he sees them. Most people either flinch or like just fully stop and stare. He doesn't either. She appreciates that. It makes her feel less of a freak, essentially, with him. And so that doesn't stop him when he starts like taking off her clothes. What stops him is they're making out. They're getting into clothes coming off time. And he asks her, what do you like? And she says, I don't know. And they're just like smooch facing. So it's very like, breath, what do you like? No, I don't know. And he like keeps kissing her for a second and then is like, what? And he doesn't come at her like, what? He comes at her like, you don't know because you can't orgasm because COVID tore you up inside and out. And the remembrance of the sexual trauma brings him up short, and he starts to have feelings, lots of feelings, complex feelings. I'm sure some of them are like, what am I doing? Others are like, should I be doing this with her? She sees this hesitation. She runs out and she's like, you're freaked out about me. Like, I'm always going to be the girl you saved. He being Francis Michael Coben, the guy who did all this to her. He's always going to be between us. She runs out. Rita's like, freak, why did I stop? But also like, what do I do? Like, the question wasn't loaded, but my reaction to it, I'm just trying to process. So that happens. She runs out. His dad stops her on the street. Now, mind you, they're in Vegas. I think Reed's family lives in Virginia. And so his dad has come up to tell Reed to back off this case, to not pull all this stuff up. No one knows that Reed is actually his biological son. He's lived his entire life like, no, Reed is my kid. But it's been this story of compassion, like, oh, this Virginia senator who's so compassionate, he adopted this brown child and treats him as his very own son. Now, the story would be different if it was like he went up to Las Vegas, had sex with a stripper, which is his mother was a dancer. Not a stripper, a dancer. An exotic dancer though, in a club. So, oh, he went up here and had sex with this exotic dancer who was 19 years old while he already had a wife and 2 daughters at home, had this baby and left, and went back and got her when the mother was brutally murdered. It don't ring the same, do it? So he doesn't want people to know that Reed is his like the real circumstances of him fathering Reed for all these reasons. So that's what he's trying to get Reed to stop before that becomes a thing. The tea. So he goes in and talks to Ellery and is essentially like, can you get Reed to stop? Ellery is like, yeah, I'm not on your team, so don't bother asking me. Reed runs up on them having chased Ellery and is like, what are you doing? Da-da-da. The dad comes back to their suite. They have a suite in a hotel together, but it has 2 rooms, so they're not sleeping together. Ellery actually can't sleep when anyone's in the bed with her. Like, she has to sleep alone with the door closed and locked. And so she goes back into the hotel room and immediately goes to her room like, I'm not here for this drama. And Reed's dad tries to talk to him, and does for a bit, but then Reed goes to Ellery's room and just stands outside of it, doesn't knock or anything, but she comes and opens the door and lets him sleep with her. But again, she can't sleep with people, so she knows that all this is really, really hard for him. He's about family, and so not being able to trust his family right now is really hard on him. Finally getting answers about his mom, but getting more questions than answers is hard on him. And so even though Ellery feels a way about how he reacted when she said she didn't know what she liked sexually, she still is like, I'm here for you. So she lets him sleep in her bed. She's just laying awake. She doesn't actually sleep. And then she like gets up and walks around. Like, she lets him sleep, and when he wakes up, she's still laying there, but like she hasn't slept. And so that, like, book 3 is really when their relationship starts asking the questions of like, considering how we met, can we be together? And Ellery thinks no, because Coben is always going to be between us. I'm always going to be this scarred woman, even if you don't see my physical scars, you are very aware of my emotional scars, and I don't know if that's going to allow us to have a normal relationship. Reed is like, bump normal, I want you. I don't care if we have to work through those things. In like the latter part of Act 2, Act 3, they do consummate the relationship, and she's like, she still doesn't know what she likes. He doesn't ask her the next time. He just figures it out with her, and she has an orgasm, which, wow, she didn't think that she could. And so, and not for lack of trying, like, she's been with men before Reed, she just never has been able to. So this is a big moment for her individually and for them as a couple. And so they are like, okay, so I guess we're like figuring this thing out. And they figure out, oh wow, that'd be a huge spoiler. I'm not gonna talk about the crime because it gets resolved. The plot twist on All the Best Lies was amazing. I sort of saw the book 1 plot twist come. Like, I sort of had figured out who it was, just because I was like, what if it's this person? I sort of figured that out. I think book 2 and book 3 do a really good job of like not putting the killer anywhere. The killer, the attacker, they said that like there's no way for you to figure that out. The person is not around in the community. You really have to do police work to find them, and I like that. In book 3, the people that it could be are arrayed from the beginning, because Reed has been doing this investigation for decades, but you still don't know who it is. That's the issue, is like, there are people that it could be, but we don't know who it is. When we find out, it's like, again, after we met her, after some time, but it took me way longer to figure out who it was. And even when I figured out who it was, the plot twist after you know who it is like, oh my gosh. It's good. I think All the Best Lies might be my favorite book in the series, actually. But by the end of it, Reed and Ellery are coupling it up. The fourth book is Every Waking Hour. After surviving a serial killer's abduction as a young teenager, Ellery Hathaway is finally attempting a normal life. She has a new job as a rookie Boston detective and a fledgling relationship with Reed Markham, the FBI agent who rescued her years ago. But when a 12-year-old girl disappears on Ellery's watch, the troubling case opens deep wounds that never fully healed. Chloe Lockhart walked away from a busy street fair and vanished into the crowd. Maybe she was fleeing the suffocating surveillance her parents put on her from the time she was born, or maybe the evil from her parents' past finally caught up to her. For Chloe, as Ellery learns, is not the first child Teresa Lockhart has lost. Ellery knows what it's like to have the past stalk you, to hold your breath around every corner. Sending one kidnapped girl to find another could be Chloe's only hope, or an unmitigated disaster that dooms them both. Ellery must untangle the labyrinth of secrets inside the Lockhart household, secrets that have already murdered one child. 1 second that ticks by reminds her of her own lost hours, how close she came to death, and how near it still remains. This book was sad. And not sad as in like every moment was devastating, but just knowing. So Chloe's older brother, who her mother had in a previous marriage. Her mother was married before, then she gets remarried and they have Chloe. In her first marriage, she had a son. He was killed in the house. And the nanny, the woman who was watching him, was killed as well, trying to protect him. It's so heartbreaking thinking about who gets attention in murder cases. Why? Because of race, because of class, because so many things. And like seeing the family of the nanny who were like, no one ever cared that our mother died trying to protect him, or the fact that she wasn't supposed to be at work that day. She was called in, and she died protecting this kid, and all the press is about him and not about my mother who died protecting him. Like, how is that okay? And so like that part of it, thinking about who tried to kill, who did kill her and Teresa Lockhart's son, because that was never solved. And because of that, that's why she is so like helicoptery over Chloe, because the person who killed her son is still out there, and she's like, what if they try to do it again? Because they don't know why the person who killed her first child did it in the first place. So as Ellery is trying to figure out who took Chloe, and if it's just a coincidence that someone has abducted Chloe, or if it's someone that has a grudge against Teresa, it's interesting to see just how trauma becomes multi-generational. Something happens to you that you can't get over. You exercise these particular constraints upon your child, which are difficult for them to bear up under, and things happen. A lot of secrets get unraveled. There are a lot of reasons why Chloe could have just walked away, because that's the thing. They don't know where she is now, but what they do know is she walked away of her own accord. She's like 13 or 14, around the same age as Ellery was. So it brings up a lot of difficult things for Ellery. That's the plot of it. Like that's the premise of it. That's the case that they're working on. Meanwhile, in Reed and Ellery land, so they're together now. Sarit's a hater, a class A hater. And she was like, Reed, it's just a fascination. And I'm just like, how dare you? You do not have power of commentary anymore. You're not me. You're not a reader who's like, I don't have any connection, but here's what I think. Like, you're not. You're the ex-wife. You're the one who asked for the divorce, for him doing what he was doing when you met him, basically. And you already over here shacked up with the man anyway, got him in my house. And then it's like, well, Reed, I know that you have Christmas this year, but whatever her boyfriend's name is wants to take whatever his kid's name is to Disney World. And so we're going to go. And I would just really like it if you would let Tula, their daughter, come with. And Reed was like, Christmas is my time. I wanted her to be with me and my family because they're cool again, him and his family. And he's like, and Sarit is like, okay, but like, it's Disney World. You want to keep her from Disney World? Because I asked her if she wanted to go. And Reed was like, what did she say? And Sarit was like, she said she wanted to be with you, but she's only saying that because she doesn't want you to be lonely and she shouldn't miss it because of you. Sarit's a hater. Like, I'm sorry. She's a straight up hater. She's like, I'm always the one that has to be the disciplinarian and you're the cool one because you get to say yes to everything because you're not around. I don't know. I'm not on Sarit's fan club, but I'm just like, Sarit, you asked him to leave. You don't want him to be around. And his job is why he's not. Like, I understand. I get that. So I'm not, I get it. I get why Sarit asked him to leave. I get the difficulty of when you're the parent that's around, you're the one that says no most often. The other parent who's not around, they're the commodity. I get it. And also, I didn't like the way she asked him. It felt very entitled that she asked him. The way she asked him felt very entitled because at first she asked him like, I just want to bring this to you. But when he was resistant, she was like, well, how could you even be considering? And you know she just wants to be with you because she just wants you to be lonely and she basically feels sorry for you. I don't like Sarit. I don't like her at all. And here's the thing. I do think Sarit is a sympathetic character, but I don't like her. She has sympathetic moments. I get where she's coming from. I understand. But I don't like her. I don't like the way that she leverages those things against Reed. I don't. At all. And then after all of this, Tula talking about, you know how you live close to me and mommy because you want to be close to me? And he's like, yes. And she's like, when we move to Texas, are you going to move to Texas with us? Or are you going to stay here with Ellery? First of all, he's visiting Ellery in Boston. So she's like, are you going to move to Boston when me and mommy leave? And he's like, where are you going? So apparently Sarit's boyfriend has a job offer or is getting a job somewhere out of state. I forget where, Texas maybe. And Sarit is thinking about getting a job there too. Had not told Reed this. And Reed's sister, who was the family attorney, is like, she could have a case because you don't stick to the assigned schedule. Sometimes you have to reschedule because of work, and that like the judge is going to take that into consideration when deciding whether or not to make Sarit stay, because Sarit has primary physical custody and you fall through on the assigned dates sometimes. He always makes them up, but that's not the point. The point is you don't follow the exact dates of the agreement, and that's what the judge is going to care about. And so I hated that Sarit put him in this position. I also hate that she had her kid to tell her about it. Now, she didn't know that Tula overheard it. She didn't want Reed to find out that way. But do you see the pattern of Reed finding out stuff about you and your moves with y'all's daughter from other people besides you? I don't like Sarit. And so Ellery is hearing this, and Ellery is like, this is getting difficult because Ellery can't have kids, but she also doesn't very much like kids. And obviously Tula is very important to Reed, but Ellery is not a mother. And she's like, I don't want to have to be. Like, this is very new between us. And Sarit clearly doesn't like me and like talks about Ellery to Tula. And then Tula regurgitates that to Ellery. And I'm just like, Reed, get your ex-wife in check, please. Like, the stuff that she says about Ellery and Reed to Tula is inappropriate. Oh, your daddy's just like has a hero god complex. It's the only reason he's with her. And then Tula repeats it, which of course Tula does, but like, it's I don't like to read. I don't like to read. So in book 4, they're really, really struggling with, can we do this relationship thing? Can we have a relationship? By the end of book 4, they break up. And when I say they break up, I mean Ellery breaks up with Reed because she's like, I think it's all just a lot for her. She hears Sarit telling her, like, you're unstable emotionally. You killed that guy. You're not apologetic about it. You have a gun outside of a gun safe in your apartment with my daughter here. You have naked butcher knives just hanging from a metallic rack in your kitchen with my daughter here. And Ellery's like, right, with your daughter here, not mine. Of course, my apartment isn't kid-proofed. I don't have kids. And Tula hasn't hurt herself yet. My gun is not sitting out here on the couch. It's in my bedroom where Tula is not. And so I just think that is a bit much for Ellery, but also the reason that she breaks up with Reed is because she's like, Coben is always going to be between us. Whenever we're in my apartment, it's perfect. But when we're out, people are always going to see me as the girl that lived and see you as the guy that saved me. And I just can't heal if Coben is always invoked whenever we are together because he made us. We wouldn't even know each other if not for him. I don't know how to deal with that. Which is something that I've been thinking about too. But like Ellery finally is just like, I can't. It's too much. And so she breaks up with him at the end of book 4. They do find Chloe though, so you can read every waking hour with confidence that this girl is going to come back alive. She is. But the mystery around it is so good. And the final book, Last Seen Alive. So, yeah, I actually don't know if it is the final book. It says the 5th book in Schaffhausen's heart-pounding mystery series, but I don't know if it's the final book. I feel like it could be, though. The resolution seemed very final, and I was very fine with it. Anyway, so the last book, or the 5th book, Last Seen Alive, Boston detective Ellery Hathaway met FBI agent Reed Markham when he pried open a serial killer's closet to rescue her. Years on, their relationship remains defined by that moment and by Frances Coben's horrific crimes. To free herself from Coben's legacy, Ellery had to walk away from Reed too. But Coben is not letting go so easily. He has an impossible proposition. Coben will finally give up the location of the remaining bodies on one condition. Reed must bring him Ellery. Now the families of the missing victims are crying out for justice that only Ellery can deliver. The media hungers for a sequel, and Coben is their camera-ready star. He claims he is sorry and wants to make amends. But Ellery is the one living person who has seen the monster behind the mask, and she doesn't believe he can be redeemed. Not after everything he's done. Not after what she's been through. And certainly not after a fresh body turns up with Coben's signature all over it, i.e. missing hands. So, this last book was a doozy. And it had a lot of annoying people in it. Oh my gosh. It had so many annoying freaking people. Good plot twists. Good plot twists. And it had a reckoning in it that Ellery needed. That she needed to face Coben down. And she gets to do that. But it was just very annoying. But I'm really gonna, for the sake of not spoiling anything, I'm gonna really have to stay focused on Ellery and Reed. Reed has Ellery's back in this book. He always does, even though they're broken up. She hasn't contacted him. She's dating a new guy who doesn't know anything about her because he's very like unplugged. So he doesn't know about Coben or her. He doesn't know anything about it, and she loves that. They just connect over music, and they both have dogs. Her dog's name is Speed Bump. He is a steady feature of the series. He's a basset hound. He's super cute. Reed has a love-hate relationship with him. Bump loves Agent Reed Markham. Bump loves Reed so much, and Reed calls him the Hound. So it's very cute. But they met at a dog park. Her and this other guy, I can't remember his name. Let's call him Eric. And so Reed is like, "Oh, you're dating someone," and she's like, "No." She was like, "We're not dating. We're just like talking, basically." Whatever. And Rita's like, okay, because he's very much not over Ellery, but he is getting to spend a lot of time with Tula, and we love that for him. Sarit ended up staying and not going to Texas. Let's say that it was. Coben was the FBI's biggest win. And so in this time of like tension between the police and the citizens, they're like, we need to like replay our greatest hits so that they remember like why they need the FBI. And so they very much want to take Coben up on his plea deal and bring more girls home to get more goodwill from the public. Reed is like, Coben is a sociopath or a psychopath, whatever. Like, Coben is not well. There is no world in which we need to trot him back out in front of the cameras. The media people are like, no, it's going to be so secure, da, da, da. He's like, you don't know what you're talking about. You're not a profiler. You're not a police officer. You're not anything but a troll. No, this is not a good idea. His boss basically pushes it through. They can't make Ellery do it. And so Reed goes to Boston and tells Ellery what's going on. I wish that I didn't live underneath ogres, but I do. And they've been doing a lot of loud stuff lately. And I wish they would stop. I'm not even sure what they're doing. But I feel like it's about time for me to go knock on their door and tell them how loud it is for me when they move furniture by scooting it. Pick it up. It's not good for the floors or my ears. Stop. But anyway, and so he goes to her, tells her what's going on, and she's like, that's a stupid idea. And he's like, I agree. Come and tell them this with me or stay here. I told them not to talk to you, whatever. And Ellery's like, I'll go and talk to them. She does. She tells me it's a ridiculous idea. The rest of the book, though, is they go forward with it anyway. And she ends up going and talking to Coben. They're vacuuming. Okay. Because I was like, what is this whine that I'm hearing? It's a vacuum cleaner. I'm sorry, y'all. It's just, I find it so distressing. But anyway, so the book is really about her having to try to relive for people Coben's particular brand of monstrosity because they don't know. So they don't really believe her. And so she really has to face once and for all and fully a lot of the things about Coben. The effects of the relationship with her mother, the effects with her relationship with Reed, a lot of things. I'm not going to get into what happens because like a lot of this book has a lot to do with crime, and then Ellery and Reed are sort of like very this because she just broke up with him, and so they are walking this line of Reed trying to be there for Ellery, Ellery trying to be comforted by Reed, but also like you broke up with him, so like you kind of need to leave him alone to a certain extent. And so I will just say that is the tension of the book. That's the plot of it, of Coben trying to be relevant again. Bodies are dropping again with Coben's signature. They think that he has not an accomplice that he's had for like at the time of the murders, which were 17 years ago, but that he may have somehow trained an apprentice who is now wreaking all of this havoc. I won't tell you all that. It's kind of a spoiler. Kind of. But so I can't really say much about the book because that's a very large part of it, but that's what's happening. Ellery's having to face a lot of things with Coben and having to decide, do you want to let these relationships go because of it, or do you want to heal and reconcile these relationships? She's able to reconcile with her mom in a way that is just overdue, so I'm really, really glad that she was able to do that. And at the end, she decides to reconcile to Reed, and it's like, I realize now that I do have the power to choose because she was with Eric at the end of it. They're now dating and he knows who she is and da-da-da. He's like, I don't care. So she's like, I was with him. And I realized that I was like, this is a good person, but I was always comparing his goodness to yours. And I realized that I do have the power to choose outside of Coben, and I choose you. Even if other people are only ever going to see him, I don't have to see him anymore, and regardless, I want to be with you. And that's how it ends. I don't know how I feel about that. I don't begrudge them their happiness. I just think it's a little weird that the circumstances under which they met and the age difference, and there's just a lot of layers to their relationship. It took Ellery 5 books to get through those layers and get to that place. Reed is really the kind of person who, like, once he's chosen you, he's not gonna leave. Even with Sarit, he didn't leave. She did, and then she moved on, and that's when they finally let her go. But once Reed chooses, he's all shows up. So he was trying to give Ellery her space, but he had not moved on. It was like, it'd been like it'd been over a month, if not multiple months, since she broke up with him, and he was still staying true. Not staying true, but like he hadn't moved on to anyone new. And so there's even a point in the book where she needs comfort. She needs to blow off steam the day after she sees Coben in prison, and she essentially, like, they have sex, but she initiated it. He was like, I thought we weren't doing this anymore. And she was like, maybe we can. And she has sex with him. And I was just like, Ellery, that's not fair. You know that he likes you. You know that he loves you. And you're using him right now to self-soothe. But the feelings are still there. And she admits that later internally in her fictitious dialogue with her therapist from book 3, who she is still seeing. Not in book 5 because she's in a different city, but like she's been seeing this therapist since book 3, and she has what her therapist would have said to her in her mind, and so she does recognize that. But yeah, it's just, I didn't find that very fair. She admits it, so I'm like, I mean, okay, I guess as long as you know, I understand you're under a lot of stress. But by the end, she's just like, I kept thinking about all the ways that Eric was good and thinking about the ways that like he compared to you. And if I'm only ever going to think about good things in comparison to you, I'd rather just have you and bump everything else. And so if nothing, even if I don't know how I feel about their relationship, I was glad that they came to a place of peace with their relationship. And then I think in the epilogue, they've been together for a year and are married. Maybe I completely made that up. It's been a couple of weeks since I finished, and I'm into a new series right now, which is why I was like, let me go ahead and do this series reaction, because I'm reading a series now called the Ella Dark Mysteries, and I have so many thoughts about that. I may go ahead and like upload my reaction to the first 2 books while they're fresh on my mind, because y'all know I have a terrible memory. And also series reviews take a longer time, as you can see. I was like, oh, 30 minutes. Okay, so I will maybe do a reaction to the first 2 books in the Ella Dark series. I can tell you right now, she annoys me far more than Ellery Hathaway. Would I recommend Ellery Hathaway series? 100%, as long as you know there's a content warning for sexual, like for discussions and descriptions of terrible sexual assault. So just be aware. We don't see it on the page, but again, like in just talking about what happened to Ellery, it comes up. She doesn't describe the action, she just says what happened. I don't know how to give you any more of a content warning without like telling you what they said, and I don't want to do that. In case you were like, nope, I'm all good. If you want to read it, you can. But I think it's a good series. Well done. I like it, and I would recommend it to you. Again, I'm not doing ratings, so I won't say like, oh, overall I would get a series and da-da-da. I like it. Sorry, my text message popped up and I was like, excuse me? But anyway, so that's the review. Let me know if you've read the Ellery Hathaway series. Let me know if you want to read it now. Let me know your thoughts about anything that I said. And if you don't have any thoughts, just vibes, you can feel free to comment a yellow heart. All right, y'all. Wow, that took longer than I thought, and I got crap to do. So I'm going to see y'all later days. Bye-bye.